Okay. Let's call to order the Electric Advisory Board meeting. It's Monday, December 1st. Please join me in the invocation and the Pledge of Allegiance. Lord, thank you for the opportunity to serve. Please bless us with wisdom and understanding in Jesus' name. Amen. Pledge of allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. First order is the approval of minutes.
Motion to approve.
Okay, motion's approved. Discussion, meter change out program.
So we have three presentations for you tonight. The meter change-out program, I'll go over that one. Chris is going to talk about the maintenance grant application process and where we are with that. And then Paul's going to wrap up and talk about bulk power cost adjustments. So that's what we have ready for you today. So the meter upgrade project, we have the project plan, the impact to the budget, little background of the AMI system, how we're communicating with our customers, the process, and then the exchange process itself. So again, the project plan is to change out about 20,000 meters. We want to ensure a safe and reliable electric system. We have, again, 20,000 what we would call first generation meters that were installed around 2012 is when the city began its own AMI adventure. And so we're going to go over the nuances of that program. But again, the idea, from a customer perspective is these meters aren't failing, but they've reached their end of useful life. And before they fail, we go ahead and change them out. There's a little nuance in there that we do deal with meters that the display has gone out. And when the display goes out, the customer service reps get a notification, if you will, because they're unable to remotely send that data back to the head-end system. So they'll get the first cue that there's something amiss, and that falls under a meter replacement. But that's different from this program. This program is to try to get ahead of the curve and get rid of these 20,000 meters and exchange them with newer meters. On a sidebar, Arnold and his guys keep up with the meter failures each month that come in. Our goal, again, over 5 years is to get rid of the 20,000 and get to a point where we don't have these failed meters that are occurring. But it's a nuance that you may hear through some of your, the area which you live is if these meters are failing, how can we ensure we're getting a good information from the meters? It's the transmission of the data that is we're dealing with. It's accurately calculating the usage, it's just not able to send that remotely. Okay. So again, in 2012, City of Leesburg went live with our AMI initiative. The meter captures the data, stores it, and sends the energy usage data through the head-end system to create the monthly invoices. This is 15-minute interval data that it's collecting, every 15 minutes, if you will. We're capturing that. We bill from that information, and then we can query that information whenever we have customer calls about high bills or usage. We can help really pinpoint exactly when they started seeing a problem, and we can help troubleshoot their end of their side of their system if they have an AC problem. So we work with them. The AMI is also integrated into our outage management system, so the meter has a last gasp. If there's an outage in the area, the meter will respond a power out notification, and that populates into the OMS system. So again, we know that they're out of power before they have to pick up the phone and even call. We'll know they're out of power. Again, some of the benefits that we see today, the interval data like I talked about to help troubleshoot, the remote disconnect and reconnect for all of our our residential meters. We're not able to do that with the commercial meters yet, but as we move forward, some of the GE meters are putting that remote cut on and cut off on some three-phase meters. So we'll see some more of that, but certainly all the residential meters are covered. And then, to help with troubleshooting and pinging, we can query meters through our system to get to handle if they're out, if their neighbor's out. If we get a single no-light call in the middle of the night through a meter system, we can ping the neighboring meters fed off the same transformer to try to determine, is this really an outage? Is it impacting all these customers or just this single customer? There's a lot of future use cases for AMI system. You can do, today we do hot meter base, so it's measuring the temperature of the meter base, and it will send us a message through the UIQ system to let us know there's a meter base we should look at. We can collect information for transformer loading. We can collect information for, if you will, on voltages to help understand or help be a little more proactive if there's a open neutral type issue that the customer may have, the certain voltage patterns that are visible or are there, so we can get that information. The problem with some of the future use cases is you end up building these exception reports, which is great, but every day you get an exception report, we have to have resources available to manage that data. So with great power comes great responsibility. We are in the final stages of the GE to Itron platform transition. So we have another month. We wanted to be done by the end of the calendar year. I think it may lapse into 1, maybe 2 more months that we complete the transition. So again, if you will, it's a significant improvement in our cost when GE falls off, and I think GE right now is like a $1.7 million annual cost, where Itron is more of the $400,000. So it's pretty significant. Same platform, the Itron meter provided the same mesh network, if you will, for all the metering information that we're getting today. We're just getting rid of GE as a third party. Budget impact. So this again is a 5-year program. We have under this year in our capital budget, right? We have just under $800,000 budgeted to take a first piece of this replacement. So we're trying to see if we can do 3,500 meters this year. The meters have been ordered. They're not in yet, but the meters have been ordered. Arnold and his team will exchange them out. Again, the total project cost is just a shy under $800,000. We do have some meters in inventory today, that about 500 that Arnold and his folks are going to go ahead and begin the first kind of phase of the initiative, if you will. We'll talk about that in just a few minutes. And Arnold has some maps he can share about exactly where we want to get started. Communicating the replacement activity. We got neighborhood signs that we've made up. We has a little QR code. We have within the QR code updated our website, so it takes them to the website to give them information as to what we're doing, what to expect. We'll only take a few moments, really. It's more or less a minute to change it out. Once you get everything set up, you take the locking ring off, you pull the old meter out, you test the lugs or make sure everything's nice and tight, and then you put the new meter in. It's just a few minutes to do that. And that process we've communicated here, we'll talk about in a minute. We are looking at doing some text messaging. We do have a system on the electric side for proactive alerts. For alerts. It's not the proactive side yet, but we can, and we are planning to do some text messaging. And then we'll kind of sit back and evaluate. There is a cost associated with the text messaging. We'll evaluate to see, what kind of saturation do you have. We get reports back. If we send a text out to this first group, about 400 customers, how many are going through, how many are hitting, are sending it to phone that don't accept text messages. Some people still have landlines, and so we'll get some reporting back. But the text messaging is already kind of integrated into our outage management process. If we have an outage that's greater than, I think, 100 customers, we send a text message out to let them know that they're out and give them an estimated time of restoration. So that's our communication, and again, the exchange process itself. We're utilizing our own employees. You know, we have IDs, and our vehicles are marked, and our hard hats are marked. It's just really going to take a few minutes. There's no need for us to enter their home, you know, and so everything is done from the outside. So we do have, let me see, before I flip to Chris, we do have a small area that Arnold selected that we want to go ahead and do. Matter of fact, we put up the signs early, or today? Did we put the signs up today? So we're looking to maybe the end of the week, go ahead and move forward with this change out. There's apartment complexes, you said off Bentley and 441. So it's about 400 to 400 customers in this area that we're trying to change out. Again, these are older. One of the first meters we installed was back in these areas, and they're still out, some of them are still out there. So we're trying to saturate that area, and then once that's done and the new meters come in, we'll replace the 500 and put that back in our maintenance stock, and then move forward with the capital program to replace the 3,500. And we're trying to focus on, again, areas where historically we've had some meter failures as far as the readout, and that will, again, from customer service, give us a report of meters that need to be exchanged. I hate to belabor the point, but, you know, we're changing the meters out because they've lived past their useful life. We have the initial failure that says I cannot take that information and remotely send it to the head-end system to the billing system. So we first, as a city, we first get a heads up when it comes back as a failed meter or monthly read for that month, for that customer. So that gives us a list of meters that we change out. But again, that's outside of this program that we've initiated here. So 2 parallel paths. One's about 300 meters a month. You know, in the cooler months, it may slow down to maybe 150. We see that the higher temperatures, we see more of the screen failures during the hotter temperatures. We've seen as much as 400 meters a month fail. So keeps us busy. Again, this program, it just gets to a point we couldn't keep up with the monthly replacements and do really anything else with 4 or 3 field folks. So it's tough to manage that resources. So that's what I have on the meter exchange program. Again, the first program we'll see here starting in probably this week or early next week. The communication's out. We'll see how it goes. You guys may hear more from residents than we do, but if your phone rings, that's what we're doing. Yep, go ahead.
So is 2012 the oldest meter that's in service?
Yes, yeah. And there's
20,000 were installed back in 2012, and that's the oldest one we've got.
So back in 2012, we took our entire system in 2012, and everybody got a new meter. So back in 2012 was probably 26,000 customers, more or less.
Okay, and then consistently between 150 and 400 fail every single month?
Well, I mean, for years we didn't have any failures. So the failure is a fairly new item that's creeped up probably the last 4 or 5 years it's creeped up. And anything new obviously wasn't installed with a 2012 meter, right? Those are some of the older generation meters that we have.
And when they fail, do they just quit, or do they?
No, what
record
happens is
improperly?
the screen fails first, right? The meter is still registering, it's still calculating.
Okay, so they still have service.
Oh, they still have service, and it's still measuring the kilowatt hours that are used each 15 minutes. What happens, though, is it loses the ability to send it to the head-end system, and the head-end system sends it to GE today, and they formulate the bill, and customer service takes that information and generates the billing. So it's a piece of that flow, if you will, that's failing. Anything else on meters? I'll hand
Yeah.
it over to Chris.
I'm sorry, a couple of quick questions.
Yep.
The ability to remote connect and disconnect, is that a new ability?
No, that was part of the that's early functionality. 2012 is early functionality for remote disconnect. I mean, pretty much that sold everybody on why a utility. A couple things. One is I'm not sending people out to read meters anymore, so I can get rid of all those resources, and I'm not having to use my RPS folks, my revenue protection folks, to go out and, cut meters off in the morning. They pay their bill and send somebody out to cut them back on in the afternoon. That's all remotely managed through the system, again, these are for the 12240 residential meter types.
Okay.
The commercial meters, I think for the most part, none of the commercial meters really have a cut-on, cut-off today.
Only one, 2208.
So a small sampling of meters have that. We are seeing, Arnold manages that process, but we are seeing some of the meters coming out with the remote disconnect stuff on the three-phase side.
On your communication slide, and it might have just been omitted, I didn't see bill inserts as a way to communicate to customers. Are you planning on using the inserts?
Yeah, we have that ability. Yes, we are. We haven't done it yet, but we'll go ahead and take advantage of that. We get emails from Pam, I guess, every month about the opportunity for a bill insert. I think we just got an email this morning. We're not ready for this. This first trial was kind of, we have some things we want to test still. We want to make sure that the process is running properly. I pull a meter out, I put a meter in. We want to make sure everything is jiving up, especially with the transition, away from GE to Itron.
Well, I would just offer that because those only come out once a month, that to start to create awareness that this project will be taking place throughout 2026. If you see QR codes and signs in your neighborhood, please take a moment to scan them. I think the further out that you can start to educate people about it, probably the better your messaging will be.
So we can do that. The only downside of it is that we're not changing out everybody's meter. It's a very targeted areas that we're going, and that's why we have the signs in the neighborhoods. Arnold has knocked on and gotten with the homeowners association, in this case the apartment complex management team, ahead of time to let them know what's going on. We can certainly take advantage of the bill stuffer, if you will, to get the mass information out. But you're right, the language has to be careful. It may not impact you, but there are a certain amount of customers in the system that will be impacted.
And what does the QR code tell me if I scan a QR code in my neighborhood?
Yeah,
What's it telling me?
So let me do this. I had those two papers, but I didn't put them as part of the presentation. I'll give them to Andy in the morning, and she can send them out to you all. But basically, it's just a little bit. You saw the first slide is why we're doing it. So it talks a little about why we're doing it. Talks about the 20,000 meters. It doesn't go into the budget side of the house. It just says this is what we're doing. It shows the AMI meter and shows you how to read the AMI meter. So there's a little bit of that associated with it. What else, Chris?
So if I may respectfully suggest, this is what you guys do for a living, right? Like this is like the stuff you're throwing out there is totally inside baseball. As a homeowner, if my home is going to be impacted, all I care about is about when to expect this and what's the impact. Like my wife works from home. If she suddenly is in the middle of a Zoom call or something and we lose power because you guys are swapping it out, I get it, but there was probably also a way that she could have worked around that had she known. So I would just caution or recommend either to just be very customer-centric in keeping it a very simple message, not only what the sign looks like and why it would be important to scan the code, but also a very basic message about what they should expect. And my hope would be that you're able to update, the information that's on the QR code should be updatable. So yours, as it moves, as those signs move from neighborhood to neighborhood, you should be able to let people know, between Monday and Wednesday of this week, we will be swapping out meters in your neighborhood. It could affect, electrical services between 7 a.m. and 7 p.m. We apologize for any inconvenience. That's really all as a homeowner I need to know. Sorry.
Yeah, I will have to. I know the message today doesn't incorporate the time frame. It just says this is what we're doing. One thing that we've kicked around a little bit is just what you referenced is, do I knock on everybody's door? Is it enough that I put out the signs in your neighborhood, I got with the homeowners, I got with the apartment manager, if you will. I have the information on the website, but if I knock on each door and get them to the door, it's probably now a 15-minute process rather than a 2-minute process.
Yeah,
So I understand the customer-centric side of it, but I'm trying to, if you will, expedite the process as
No,
well.
and I agree. I mean, I think, I was thinking about knocking on doors, but yeah, that adds a tremendous amount of time to your process. And if communicated properly prior to that moment in time that you pull the meter and replace it, you shouldn't have to be knocking on people's doors.
Well, I think we could I like the idea of being more specific on if we're really working in targeted areas, then the messaging could be a bit more specific in one of the two areas. So we could try that. So I got those notes, and I'll send you what we have already, and we'll see what we can do to incorporate.
Yeah, those yard signs should be a nice bright color that says you may be losing electrical service. Scan the code for more information.
Yeah.
That would get me to scan that sign and find
Yeah.
out what that's all about.
Yeah.
And especially
Yeah.
if it's got City of Leesburg on there, so it's official. It's not going to be some sort of, con of some kind of somebody trying to get me to do
Well,
something.
I mean, that's why we had the note about, nobody needs access to your home, because I
Right.
don't want to
Yep.
have anybody out there trying to,
Yep.
pull a shady deal on anybody.
Thank you.
You had a comment, Arl, that I missed?
I was gonna say we can revert. We have the information on the website that talks about all of us as a whole, the meter shop in our team. We
You might
did kick
want
around.
to step up to the microphone. Sure, the guys in the back are freaking out.
Good evening. I'm Arnold Eugene, the meter supervisor for the electric department. We did kick around the idea of sending out messages to every resident, and then also putting signs out that say, I'm in your neighborhood Monday through Friday or something like that. But we also thought about all the vandalism and stuff and home break-ins and stuff. And if our schedule changes, we may not be in that area at that current time, but you've been notified about it. So generally today, our practice is when we get a notification from customer service from the billing side to us to go out and check a residence, we knock on doors today. So some of our larger complexes, we're kind of being proactive and talking with the HOAs and all that kind of stuff to send out notification to all the residents so they know on this said time, we, the electric department, will be in your neighborhood. We do have signs, like I said, about it. The QR code that Mr. Brad has alluded to does have a sign on it that says we are upgrading meters in your neighborhood. And it says City of Leesburg with the logo on it. And then it takes you to the website that shows all of us. I can see if they can pull it up. I don't know if y'all can pull it up in here or no, on the website, which will show you all the information pertaining to the system. If you go down to the electric department tab, it shows the meter shop and says, it talks about the whole program.
I think you guys are complicating it, but
Me
there's just one guy's
personally,
opinion.
I've kind of gave my guys the direction to knock on doors on all the houses and residents as we go up because of fencing and all of that.
Well, that's the point I was going to add. If the meter's behind fencing, then we do knock on the doors.
Right.
I know it takes time, but I think it's beautiful customer service that you're doing that. My dad just turned 80 yesterday. He wouldn't scan a QR code if his life depended on it.
Right.
And he's on oxygen. So
Well-
if
well,
y'all
that's
shut
why we're gonna
electric
knock.
off, my dad would have a heart attack.
Well, we have notifications from all accounts that are flagged as what we call life alert accounts. And then all the meters have a yellow tag on them for life alert, which tells us that we must notify that customer before we disconnect power or any type, which means we 90% of the time we knock on the doors, customer tells us go ahead. It's a quick process. It's in and out. We do realize a lot more people are working home now. We do deal with it on a daily basis. So we knock on doors. You know, if we see people walking in the house, we knock on the door, let them know what's going on, that kind of thing. So that process is not going to change. I just kind of, me from Leesburg, I've seen all kind of things around the holiday time, us working out, changing meters and stuff. I've seen a lot of vandalism. I've been in subdivisions reading meters for the city while homes been broke in. Had to deal with the police and all that stuff. Seen guys running down the streets, cars racing, the whole nine. We've had guns pulled on us in the neighborhood with all our identification and all that stuff. So we know the importance behind all of this. So that's why we've done all the brainstorming possible. And now that's why we also presented it to you also, so everyone's aware of it. So that's kind of my point on it. Any
you.
questions for us?
Move the deck up.
Hey, good evening. Chris Atkins, Deputy Director of Electric. I'm here to go over the Department of Energy Electric Grid Resiliency Grant Program. This program by DOE, their goal is grid resiliency, utility, and industry grants. They want to support modernization of the electric grid, and they want to reduce the impact due to extreme weather and natural disasters. So the application process, applications were submitted to the Florida Division of Emergency Management. That's who we have to submit to, the Florida Department of Emergency Management. They review all the applications, and then they send all those up to DOE for consideration. So we have documents we have to fill out to go to them. They review it. They make sure that we meet all the qualifications for the grant, and then they send it on up if it does. The federal funding applies to reimbursement, so we have to put a outlay up front, and then they reimburse the cost anywhere from 47 to 67%. And that's based on particular project that you're doing. There's a 5-year completion on the after acceptance, so we have 5 years from the time we get under contract with the DOE to complete the projects that they've approved with us. Now, the status update on this on April 23rd, 2024 was the initial submission. We have submitted 10 grant applications. And on March 13th, 2025, 7 of the grants applications were approved and moved to the next level. On October 31st, 2025, 4 of the grant applications were approved and were going to be sent up to DOE. Now we are waiting on the status of 3 other grants that we submitted, so we haven't got a negative or a positive response from Florida Department of Emergency Management. So what we wanted to do is we wanted to review this with you and see if you had any recommendations on this, both currently and moving forward. The final agreement and acceptance of the grants will be approved by the commission once we get to that point. I want to review the grants that we have out there. County Road 25A, that's south of Leesburg. If y'all are familiar with that, if you head south on 27, just past Save-A-Lot, there's a road that goes off there to the right. There's a bunch of poles that we have down through there. That's a system hardening process that consists of 7 older distribution poles and the associated hardware with them. The budget impact, the total project is $55,000. The total grant participation is $25,460, and the total impact to the city is $29,540, or 54%. just as a note, the 7 poles that we have were recognized in a pole inspection program we have. They go out and look at all of our poles in an area, and then they let us know that these are poles that we need to go ahead and move forward on changing out because of their age or how they're doing structurally. Now, the next project we have is L62 feeder reconductor and reconfiguration. This is a targeted reliability improvement project that will allow us more redundancy within the distribution system. It provides additional tie points that allow us to tie with other feeders to make sure that outages are less than what they normally would have been prior to this project. And we'll eliminate the majority of overhead exposure. When we talk about that, we're talking about trees falling, tree limbs getting into the lines. The budget impact on this is $740,000. The grant participation is $470,000, and the cost to the city is $270,000, or 37% of the total project. Now, this one, most of the work has been completed. We've been working on this for over a year now. So,
Where is this one, Chris? Give them a little geographic
So,
outlay where this.
this project, it's north of where we are now, headed towards the boulevard. And it also to our substation, east substation by the old Catrolli plant. So it's all that area. It goes back to Center Substation on the boulevard, or on 27. It allows us to tie those 2 substations together and also to do some partial backfeeding so we can get power back on to our customers.
Again, there's a lot of conversion on this feeder, a lot of overhead, a lot of underground being installed on this particular feeder. As Chris noted, a lot of this work has been done already, but that doesn't take it away from the grant program, if you will. This may be something that we see a reimbursement after the fact. You know, we still have probably 6 months more work to do. Maybe not quite 4 to 6 months more work to do. It's kind of a full-in job for us right now because we have other customer-driven projects that are higher priority from time to time.
Okay, the next project that we have is L59 feeder reconductor. L59, it goes down South 27. This section that we're working on would start just south of the high school, going south. It'll be on the west side of 27. It'll go down to South Street and then head west down South Street to Cotoy Road. So that's the area. This project will improve resiliency and reliability by installing underground cable and installing hardened poles to increase the current carrying capacity on the feeder. The budget impact is $2.85 million. The total grant participation is $1.9 million, and the total cost to the city is $940,000, or 33%. 33% of the total cost. And this project will take us over about a 2-year time period to get completed. And the last project we have is Ravenswood subdivision. If you're familiar with this, it's on South 27. If you know where Lake Denham is a new subdivision that went in. If you turn into Lake Denham, if you turn immediate right, you'll go back into Ravenswood subdivision. This is an area that is an older subdivision, and it has a mixture of overhead and underground currently, but it will improve the reliability and resiliency by converting much of the subdivision to underground and hardening the remainder portion. The budget impact is $195,000. The total grant participation is $130,000, and the total to the city is $64,000, or 33% of the budget amount. Due to the existing tree canopy, if anybody's been back in there, It's just a lot of tree canopy, and it's more effective for us to go underground than to pay for the tree trimming to clear everything out for us to go overhead. So there are 3 projects that I mentioned that I wanted to go over real quickly that are still out there that are of, a couple of them are of quite a note. The first one's on 25A again. There's more poles on there, 7 more poles down that road that we want to change out that were recognized in the pole inspection process. 702, 703 reconductor, which is on North 27 in Fruitland Park, somewhere about where the new warehouses are on the left-hand side going north, all the way to Spring Lake Road. So that'll help us out with some loading that we have in that area, future projects and subdivisions that are going in. The last one is North Sub Transformer number 1 replacement. We've had problems with transformer number 1, the big substation transformer, and it's been up and down for the last several years. So we want to try, we hopefully will be approved for that one, and we'll be able to change that out. So also continue the next steps. We're going to continue working with DOE to develop contracts detailing to begin the package, and we'll bring that to the commission. The actual cost versus the estimated cost will be submitted to the commission, and projects are going to be spread over 5 years. So we'll be able to budget those as we go through the year and have a less of an impact on our capital budget each year. So with that, if you have any questions, try to help you out with that.
I'll just interject on the actual cost. These estimates were done a couple years ago, so everything's gone up, labor's gone up, material's gone up. So we wanted to make sure that you all understood that if we get approved for these, then we'll turn in the actual cost for reimbursement, not what was submitted 18 months ago.
And we did that from the 2024 to the ones I just sent in, the 4 I just mentioned. But DOE recognizes that there is going to be cost differences from the start of the project to the contract and even the completion of the project. So they understand that.
I had a question about the grants. You had said that 10 were filled out, 7 moved to the next phase, 4 have been approved, you're still waiting on 3.
Yes.
The first 4 projects you discussed, you also broke down that they had grant dollars tied to that. Are those the 4 that have been approved, or are those totally different ones?
Those are the 4 that have been approved.
Okay, so we're waiting on the 3.
Waiting for
Okay.
a decision on the 3, yes, ma'am.
Okay, so the 4 that have been approved are already allocated, so
Yes,
those are
ma'am.
not out there waiting for, okay.
Yes, ma'am.
We say approved, but there is no contract yet
Yeah.
between the city. They haven't given us a contract for us to take to the commission. I'm surprised we got this far. I thought we'd get denied early on with all the talk of costs with the federal government. So I'm pleasantly surprised we've gotten this far. Do I assume the 3 we didn't get any indication on probably didn't make it to the next level? That's my assumption, but as Chris said, we haven't definitively heard one way or the other.
I'm glass half full.
Yeah.
He's glass half empty.
So,
But
excuse me, the grants that have been approved, is it approved for a percentage or for a straight dollar figure, given that obviously the price of the project is going to increase?
so the way things work is that DOE tells the Florida Department of Emergency Management, this is how much money your area gets. And then they divide that out. So that's why you see some of the percentages are not quite the same. So they know that Florida Department of Emergency Management, they say, okay, we're going to put these 4 projects in out of all the money that we have that can be allocated to projects in the state of Florida. And then they said, this is the way we want to do it. And then they send it up to DOE. So DOE still has to say yes to that. So there is a plan that Florida Department of Emergency Management has, how they're going to divide up that money.
So
That makes sense?
The 4 projects that made it to the next stage, were those prices updated in '24?
They were given to them in 2024, and then they were updated whenever I resubmitted. They wanted an answer summary,
So they were
Of
updated
scope.
in 25.
and they were updated in 25 a couple months ago.
I think I understand your point of view, your question, and I don't know the answer to that. Is they have a bucket of money, and if our costs are $20,000 more, is their ratio gonna go up? Because I did the math to get you the rate, the percentage.
Right.
So we
And
have
that would be my concern on the, something like this, is that you get, you get committed into a project that's some of these are very big ticket item projects, expecting X amount, and then at the end of the day, the project exceeds what you initially budgeted significantly, but the return on the grant hasn't changed. And, just thinking business minded, is like, are you going to get roped into a project and not get the return, and it end up, overshooting our budget?
So
ultimately?
historically, what they have done, just for simple math, the project has $300,000 total. DOE says we're going to pay $200,000 of that, so it leaves $100,000 for the city. We go and do our project, and we go, oh, it costs more than $300,000 to complete it. We can go back to DOE, show them the justification, and they will consider bumping that up to cover those costs.
Basically, in a nutshell, I'm like, can we afford to do these projects without the grants? Would we be moving forward on these projects with or without the grants? And then that's when it starts to make sense for me, that the grants are coming back as bonus money, reimbursing us for projects we were going to do anyway. Or are we doing them because of the grants and ended up shooting ourselves in the foot financially when they cost way more than the grants are going to give back?
So my answer to that is that we have the opportunity to have some of these projects that we have to get done. The L59 project is, because of the growth that's going on, we have to be able to backfeed, and right now we are right there on the margin of being able to do that. Ravenswood is another one. We need to get in there and do these things, and 62 we're already doing. So to answer your question more directly, we would be budgeting for them, but they would be multiple years down the road because of the costs that are going into it. By getting the grant, we make it more manageable to get some of these projects accomplished. Now, some other things that we have in the budget, because of capital outlay, we may have to reorganize, but we have an opportunity to get some of these projects done.
So these projects fall, you remember our budget conversation, and there's a line item about 7.8 million for capital improvement projects. That's where all of these lie into, not the bigger, what was it, $64 million capital plan that had all of our costs and O&M, everything associated with it. It's a $7.2 million bucket that is broken into capital improvement, keeping the lights on, and new growth. So it's kind of one leg of that capital plan. As Chris said, we've already worked on the other three that he mentioned. They're already in this year's capital plan. The 62 is already in our capital plan. So all of these projects will find are in our 5-year plan, either in 27, 28, 29, et cetera.
Just out of curiosity, the grant program, do you get draws along the way, or is it when you're all completely done, you go ahead and request the total amount that's due to you, and then what's the lag time to get reimbursed?
There is nothing that I can find particular to this grant that tells me that. It will be in the contract information that we get. Other grants do have a payout in a particular time period. So our hope is that from a budgetary standpoint, that yes, we'll get reimbursed along the way at a certain period of time.
I'm completely understanding the maintaining and improving the new growth. Can we hold developers more responsible to take on more financial responsibility versus the city taking on the new construction, new development?
So we've done a considerable shift in some of our costs over the last 3 years, as directed, by Al. So if you look at some of the subdivisions that are going in, the new plan says for today, if there's any line extension, any make-ready work, developer's paying 100% of that, right? Now, they look at the subdivision, their revenue, 4-year revenue has to meet those, that they have to exceed the cost to build. If not, then they have to pay the difference. And on top of that, we're providing the material, but they have to install all the infrastructure. They gotta install the pipe and the boxes and the handholds. They have to do all that. That wasn't part of our plan 3 years ago, but we're shifting a lot of those costs to the developer.
Okay, because
We could talk about more, but I think it's significant. What we're doing today is quite a bit different than what we did 3 years ago.
Okay, because I am a real estate broker and I write contracts for a living. I wrote a $3 million deal for Moss Development. And they need to start taking on more responsibility because they're making very, very good money when they sell these communities. It's sad to have it come on us to pay for them
Yeah.
to make millions off of these developments.
Again, I think
Don't wanna
we've
say
shifted
too much.
a lot of the responsibility to them. One thing that we do at Leesburg, that's not all utilities do, is, we have that bond that's required, that you have to live up to your obligation. If you don't live up to your obligation to build your subdivision, then the bond is forfeited. So I think that's some incentive, certainly, that Leesburg has over those developers to make sure they do what they say they're gonna do.
Yeah, because I know even when impact fees were raised, it didn't slow anything down. Not at all.
Which just got passed on to the
Absolutely. It gets-
homeowners,
it gets-
to the buyers.
Exactly. I have
Yeah.
7 closings this month, and it doesn't slow anything down. Not at all.
Just raises the price. So
But
do you-
they're paying it.
Do you need a motion from us? Is that what you're looking for, to
I
approve you?
don't think a motion. I
Okay.
guess we're asking, for a recommendation. Our plan is that we need to move forward with working with the DOE, and at some point, we're gonna have a contract in hand on these 4 projects. We're not there today. We wanted to update you all and say, well, this is where we are in the process. We still have to come back with, a contract that has the numbers in it, that has some more definitive decision-making, and then I think we bring it back to you all for your guidance, and then we take that to the commission. But we don't have those contracts today.
So is there only one entity that you guys are writing the grant applications to, or are there multiple entities that you're writing grant applications to?
So we dove into the grant writing, I guess, 2021, 20, something like that.
Yeah.
We tried to get some outside resources to help. It's not our forte, and so we've tried the GRIP grants. We did a number of other grants that we were not successful with. This is where we've gotten some traction. We went with FEMA on some of their grants, and we were unable to move forward with those grants. FEMA, just like the DOE, is saying we're willing to help subsidize utilities to mitigate problems and issues that occurred during this storm, this tropical disturbance, so we don't see it over and over and over again. But for whatever reasons, we weren't able to reach an agreement with FEMA. I think FEMA has other things happening, so they just kind of shut off talking to people. DOE seems like they're more the same flavor, because all these things are mitigating areas where we've had problems. Ravenswood was a problem year after year after year, so it bubbles up to the top. When you start listing out where my problem areas, these things start to trickle to the top.
And I would think from a Department of Emergency Management, they want to see those targeted areas that are consistently down for days and days and days, because then that does weigh on FEMA to reimburse that resident for outages that are beyond, anyone's control. So these are projects that are needed, and grant money is just gravy on the potatoes. I mean,
Yeah.
if we get the reimbursement, then you get it, but these are projects that have to be done. And so my recommendation is go after any free money that's out there. And I hear what you're saying, and for our benefit, I don't think they're looking for just a project to get money and hopefully get it. This is a much-needed project.
Yeah.
Do you get any formal notice of approval before you, I mean, one, it says that you've already completed much of the work, but are you notified kind of advance where you know this project may have that funding for assistance in budgeting? It's not going to change it for me, but.
No, we don't get any, notice ahead of time other than the official notice.
Well, grants are wishy-washy. I work with grants in the arts, and you're dependent on that, and you're like, oh my gosh, we're going to get it, and then all of a sudden they're like, "Whoop, you're not getting it." So I encourage you to continue to budget it in case we don't. But I think you go after any free money that there is on the table.
Yeah, that's, if it needs to be done, it needs to be done. I'm on the same page, and it should definitely move forward, especially with the 4 that you already have advanced to the next stage, with the understanding that, with grants, there's no guarantees, and that that the department is prepared to absorb that full cost. I mean, you have to be. It's just good stewardship. And, like Amanda said, the grants are just gravy on the potatoes.
Well, I think the way that it's orchestrated, if you will, Al and the commission is going to have to come up with 100% funding
Right.
to get approved, and when the grants come in, it will just, cut down on those expenditures, but we'll have to be prepared to pay 100% of those costs through the budgeting process.
And just as a note, there's nothing, even though we got it approved to this next level with these 4, there's nothing that's tying us to them until we do contracts. So if commission or y'all's recommendation is to put that aside and don't move forward, then, we can certainly do that up to the time we sign contracts.
I'll just say final, I think you push forward and bring it to the commission for if a contract comes forward, so unless there's some, verbiage in there that is terrible, but that's my recommendation.
Like I said, I would suspect it will come back here in a future meeting with the more definitive contract language. We just not at that stage. We just wanted to update you all as to where we are in the process.
Good work to your team.
Good, thanks.
Thank you.
Yeah. Good evening, Paul Austin, Finance Director, City of Leesburg. We're going to talk about rates, specifically BPCA, which is the bulk power cost adjustment. And that's the piece of the rate structure that we can alter from month to month based upon the cost of gas as it goes up. We may look at raising the BPCA. If there's a reduction in gas costs, we can reduce it. Right now, we're at about 4.6 million in our BPCA account. Keep in mind that the target here is about 3 million. So because of a hot summer and cheap gas, we were actually able to over-collect. I think we were about just south of 5 million end of September. So moving forward, reminder, our current BPCA rate is $20 per 1,000 kilowatts. If we keep that rate with all projections through FMPA as far as costs and sales, in about May, we're going to be $162,000 in the red. So reason for that would be high domestic demand. So you remember a few weeks ago, it got really cold across the country. That was kind of early and unexpected, which increased the cost of gas. So half of the country, about 50% of households use natural gas to heat their homes. So when it gets cold everywhere, not only are we burning gas to create electricity, people are burning gas to keep their homes warm, so that supply and demand gets a little out of whack. The current administration is increasing liquid natural gas exports to Europe and a lot of other parts of the world. So when we do that, obviously that tilts our supply and demand again in a bad way. FMPA is projecting higher costs through the winter. Based upon the early cold spell, they project that going through probably April on the cold side. So graphically, the past is the green. So we had some cheap gas through the summer, and then last month there was a spike. So if you can see that blue line is what FMPA projected what their costs would be. Due to the spike in gas prices, their current projections are now the red line. So through now until the spring, they underprojected costs at about 4.5%. So we saw a pretty big spike last month in the cost of gas. So again, to get to that $3 million number and to keep out of the red, we are recommending increasing the BPCA to $22.50, which is 2.5 cents per 1,000 kilowatts beginning January. And for the average customer, that's about a $3.25 increase before taxes. And then and the additional increase to $25 in April, again, will be another 3.25, so it'd be about a $6.50 increase by April. So that would get us to that magic 3 million number by the end of October of next year. So this next graph is probably hard to read. So I took the liberty and printed some papers for you. Slightly better. So the first page is where we're at currently with the 2 cent. $20 per. So if you look at middle of the page in May, we go into the red, and then we end the year slightly above $1 million. Second page is the projected increases. So you'll see the highlighted number towards the bottom of the page in January, and then again in April. And if you slide all the way across to the bottom, it gets us to that magic $3 million number that we were talking about. Questions, concerns?
Didn't we just lower this not long ago?
We went from 25 cents to 20, I believe in November. I'm sorry, not November, in August.
That's what I thought.
Yeah.
I just didn't think we were raising and lowering it that frequently, but I guess is that normal?
Again, it's all dependent on the cost of gas.
I got to understand.
Yeah.
So
just so I wrap, it's normal to adjust this multiple times a year.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Again, that's the one piece that we can play with
Yeah,
based upon
understood.
our costs.
Yeah, when I saw that it was going back up again, I was like, well, it just went down.
Yeah.
Okay.
Lakeland does it monthly. They just, it's just a cost pass-through, so they'll have monthly changes.
And if you remember, I would think it was maybe 3-4 years ago when gas was really cheap, we were at zero with this
yeah.
for a while. And then as costs crept back up, we started to increase that number as well. Again, all these are projections based upon sales and the projected cost of gas. FMPA does a good job with futures trading, so they kind of lock in for the short term. So whatever happens in the world, we're not going to be shocked. But that $3 million number gives us some flexibility. So if we do see a spike in costs like we did last month, we can take that on without creating a disaster for customers.
Is the transfer to the general budget a potential offset to the increase? In other words, if they were to lower what is transferred to the general budget?
That would not affect the expense. Obviously, that would affect their revenue and what they're able to play with. But
Right.
that wouldn't affect the rates to the customer.
Right. But if you're locked into a certain, and I apologize, maybe this is more of a conversation for when Al is here, but let's say, whatever that fixed number is that we tend to shift over to the general budget, if we said, hey, look, instead of doing that, we're going to absorb more of this increased cost so that we don't have to raise rates. I don't get the impression from sitting here for the last 2 years that there's an awful lot of valves that you guys can turn to try to save the customer money. Like, I get that there's costs that are out of your control. I will always be, where else can we save money without having to pass on
Sure.
and increasing rates? So,
I think your question says if you lower the transfer at this point in time, it's gonna ripple to all of throughout the whole city's budget, because the city budget that we just started is all based on the transfers from the electric, from gas, or from water and solid waste, if you will, and all of Al likes to say the have and the have-nots, the givers and the takers, the budget's already set. So if I lower the amount to cover for the fuel adjustment within the electric side of the house, then it impacts the other side of the budget. All
Sure.
of those costs are going to be impacted.
but I would also make the argument that as a homeowner, that if my electric bill is going up for the next several months, I have to make adjustments as well. Someone's going to have to adjust something somewhere somehow. So, and again, I'm not looking to solve it tonight, but I will always bring that up as how else can we operate as a utility and raising rates the absolute last thing possible. And sometimes the answer will be, we just can't. But I will always ask that question, so.
Sure.
Well, we're not just looking at one price increase in January, we're looking at one in April as well.
Correct.
So it's not just one, it's two.
Yep.
And according to this projection, it's riding out the summer at the higher rate.
Yep.
Again, these are projections. We can alter that BPCA number however you want. We can do one bump and leave it alone, or we can do none and ride it out, and hopefully that we've over-projected cost and the weather cooperates. But based upon the data we have, this is, the best way to go forward, I believe.
Well, and if I'm not mistaken, we went through that at another point this year as well, where we over-projected and we wound up having a nice surplus that allowed us to reduce the rate again.
Yeah,
Great place to be.
right.
Nobody complains on social media when you lower their rates,
Exactly, right.
but they find social media when you raise them.
Yeah, there's a lot of factors that are driving the cost of natural gas, and then if you look even farther in the future, you're looking at all these data centers that are going to just consume tons of energy. So this will be an ongoing discussion
Yep.
in years to come, for sure.
And this goes before the commission for final approval?
No, Al has the ability to make these changes.
So he's asking for a recommendation, or?
This was
He's
our,
already done it.
this, yeah.
Dad's not
yeah,
here?
Yeah, this was our recommendation. Again, we're open to discussion, however you guys would feel most comfortable trying to tackle this. But again, in the end, we want to get to about a $3 million cushion.
Well,
That's the goal.
I see Mark's point, and I second that point, but I understand your point about the budget. So my question would be, when is the right time to ask that? Where can we save within the city? And I'm on the same page as Bethany, that 2 adjustments are hard. So do you bite the bullet and do it now? And
Yeah, you got to look into the psychology of it. People are going to say, oh, they're increasing it again versus just doing one bump.
Right.
Kind of.
so if you tell me, Amanda, it's going to be $6.50 more a month, in my mind, that's great. Well, it's not great, but I mean, it's more
Yeah, you can
accepted
understand,
versus, okay, we're doing it in January and here we are again in April. So I would rather see that upfront bump one time versus twice, and I got to go through social media
And then
pain.
reevaluate again in April.
Yeah, I mean, Mark's probably ready to kill me. Like, what are you doing, Amanda? But I don't like this every 3 months we're looking at. It's got to go up again, because it's going to go up. We're going into the summer, so the chances of April being a status quo, we're going to stay the same versus going up, is probably slim. I'm assuming.
As far as the bulk power cost or cost overall?
The bulk power cost. we're probably not gonna come here in April and if we raise it the percentage you're saying now, and come back in April, we're probably not gonna stay the same. You're probably gonna be like, we gotta raise it again.
Yeah, see, the thing with the curve, if I can pull that back up. You'll see, there's always this roller coaster effect. Gas is cheaper in the summer for us because the rest of the country isn't burning gas to keep their homes warm. So we always see this roller coaster curve. So in the winter, it spikes because everyone's burning gas, whether it be to produce electricity or to heat their homes. And then in the summertime, our gas is cheap and our sales are high, so we tend to over-collect in the summer. And then this time in the winter, we under-collect because, so.
And remind me, the base rate is set by, is it the state?
The per kilowatt rate, those is set by the commission. So they have to go in front of the commission for a change.
Any rate change would have to be approved by the PSC.
You're asking the gas charge?
No, the base rate.
Oh, I
So so this is basically,
I understand.
yeah, this is the adjustment line.
Yeah, the base rates haven't changed in 2, maybe 3 years.
Yeah.
So it's just this bulk power cost thing that keeps going up and down just to,
And we talked about the base rate going up versus the kilowatt rate.
correct.
Because that at least creates some continuity in that, but it's out of our control.
Yeah, we were lucky with the lower gas rates, as you can see in the screen there on the green. There was actually lower than projected cost, which was good. But now we're in the opposite situation now.
Well, I would make the same comment on this that I did earlier this evening about the critical importance of communication and letting people know, number one, as far in advance as we can, that this is going to happen. This is why it's going to happen. This is what the money does not go to, because I always love hearing, city manager must have gotten a new car, with my raised electric bill this month.
Sure.
So, I think communication is pretty critical on these things. There are factors that are out of our control as a utility, just like any other business.
Sure.
But, and even then they look, so businesses have been dealing with tariffs and like, well, how much do I absorb as a business? How much do I pass along to the customer?
Sure.
It just feels to me that every time this comes up, that the automatic response, and I don't say this that you guys take this lightly at all, but the automatic response is we need to raise rates. I always kind of question where else can we possibly conserve so that we don't have to raise, or if there's a happy medium in there someplace.
Sure.
I'm off my soapbox.
Are base rates for residential and commercial the same?
No.
No, they're different.
Okay.
Yeah, with the residential base rates, it's two-tiered, so you got your first 1,000 at such and such, so it kind of promotes conservation a little bit. Our average customer burns about 1,300 kilowatts a month.
Oh, always above average.
Yeah, so overachiever.
Well, Duke Energy is still higher, so that's all I'll
Yeah,
say. I'm a Duke customer.
They're proposing a rate reduction, but I don't know, I'll believe that when I see it. And the FPL is actually going up beginning January 26 and 27 and possibly into 28.
Well, I don't know that we should necessarily tell all we know either, because I don't think anybody's going to feel sorry for us when they say, well, we want to have $3 million in reserves. That doesn't usually go over very well, because wouldn't we all like $3 million in
Yeah, right.
reserves? I just don't think we should maybe tell
Nice
all we
big
know,
number.
because I think that will be received as too bad.
Sure.
Well, it is a bit of a rate retention fund, if you will, because if you have large variations on it, you're not going back to your customers month after month because there's a big swing. So it does help buffer these. So we're talking about, again, $2 and $6. We're not talking about $30.
So when it was really, really cheap in the summer, did we power buy? For reserves?
Well,
or-
actually, we talk about hedging. We have a lot of, with FMPA, so we have a lot of hedging that we've been doing since 2021 when it went to $70. So we've been hedging ourselves, trying to manage these costs. So this year is going to be fairly predictable about what we're going to see. So we purchased down on some of the summer months, so it should be flatter, meaning that our budget should be what we actually pay. It's just some of these high hits you see with the are more demand-based, we can't hedge everything. We're not hedging 100%, we're hedging 50% of our cost, not everything.
And to answer your question from earlier, the budget meetings during the summer would be the time to bring that up. How can we maybe reduce the transfer, push those savings off to the electric customers, and maybe bring down some of the expenses in some of the other departments? So that's the time to do that. You're welcome.
Is that all?
So would you feel more comfortable with one bump up or the two that we discussed?
Yeah, I
Or-
think it's 6 of one and half dozen of another. I mean, I would just assume see the 50 cents rather than 2.20. Is it 25 cents?
It's 20,
It's 20 now.
20,
raise
yeah,
it-
20 to
raise it
22
5
and a half
to
to 25, yeah.
I think that's what's on the table. You're proposing 2.5 cents.
2.5
and
cents
another 2.5
apiece.
cents.
Yeah, taking a 5 cent increase and kind of breaking it out.
You're splitting hairs.
I know.
Yeah.
As a person that has 4 electric bills in this town.
Well, I understand. I have several too.
Again, there's the math, and then there's the psychology of it.
Yeah,
How much,
yeah. I
you know.
think.
Well, the 25 is based on projection.
Right.
I would rather see a conservative initial move
I agree.
and
Yeah,
then
that-
adjust if we absolutely have to.
I would stick with your initial plan.
Okay.
If it were me.
Yeah, that was Al's thought, is a little bit, hopefully we get lucky and we can
Yeah.
keep it there, or, if we have to, we can bump it up.
Yeah, do that and
Because then you're gonna-
reevaluate later down the road. If you
Yeah.
have to, you have to.
Yeah. And this chart comes out every month, so next month they may say, oh, we overprojected because of such and such happened, and then they can
And then that
bring those lines
projected
down.
one in April can be less.
Yeah.
Yeah, makes sense.
As I think about my monthly expenses, this is really the only one, excuse me, that typically will fluctuate. My cable bill, my streaming bill, I mean, those are fixed amounts. Water bill, I imagine, is a relatively fixed amount. So this is, from a consumer, from a homeowner,
Right.
trying to navigate that fluctuation.
Sure.
Not necessarily in my usage, but in what I get charged for that usage.
Right.
So,
It's much like gasoline. When you go to put gas in your car, one day it's $2.80, then the
Right.
next day it's $3.19.
Yep.
So it's the same thing with the natural gas.
you've noticed that also?
Yeah, I do, yeah.
You could ask Al, since he's not here, you could ask him next time, some utilities do budget billing, so it is more set during the year. Now, there's true-ups at the end of the year that could be, I think that's why some people stay away from it, because it could be a little painful if you've underestimated this whole year, but the budget billing has a way of kind of having each month pretty flat.
We're actually working on that.
I get questions
Yeah,
about that.
Yeah,
a
we're
lot.
actually, that's actually in testing right now.
Yeah.
We've been testing it about 10 months, and in about 2 months, we'll get actual true up, and hopefully all the math works out, and we can actually roll that out to customers. We've had some technical issues, but, excuse me, but again, that doesn't, you're still committed to pay for what you use. It just, your bill from month to month will be in a window of, 150 to 200, give or take, depending on how the math works out.
And then at the end of the year, you either have a
Yes, you get a credit,
deficit.
or you get a true up, or we just calculate the next year is going to be a little higher because we undershot, and vice versa.
Just like escrow.
Correct. Yep.
All right.
Anything else?
No, it's been great.
Okay. So we will proceed as proposed, and hopefully we get surprised on the good side.
All right, thank you, gentlemen. What an informative meeting. We'll go into roll call, Bethany.
Nothing,
I have nothing.
other than happy holidays to everybody.
I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn?
Second.